I kind of wish I had a chance to do this scene over again. You may not notice it, but there's this moment where Bennett says, "We're here at the hotel, and then you can hear this audible thud, where I should have really been faster, kind of stepping on his line when I interrupt him, where I goes, "See, I knew this would happen. It's my fault. He kind of gave me this speech to do, and this is probably the longest take of the entire thing, and I was really tired. I'll be honest with you. This was probably done around 10:30 at night. I'd just gotten off the plane. We went to Dave and Buster's to eat, and everyone was pretty tired at that point. But we had to get this thing done because we were going to be busy all night the next day, and we didn't know if we were going to have much more time to record this show." Bennett was really excited to do this one, and he sent me the script a few days early. He was actually pretty well on the ball when it came to this one, but I didn't have enough time to study the script as I would have liked because I was busy with my own shit. I was doing Strike Commando. I was really trying to get that ready and foolproof for the donation drive, trying to get it all converted and neatly formatted. I had it split up into 2 halves for the donation drive, and as it turns out, it didn't work out anyway. But that's what I was doing, and Bennett was working on this, and he sent me the script, and I told him, I really don't know if we're going to have time to do this script, because I believe the script he sent me was 10 or 11 pages. A really verbose script, by the way, and that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying my scripts are usually very verbose as well, but for about an 8-page script, it takes me about 4 hours to shoot. I do a lot of takes, but yeah, it takes me a while, and I was like, there's no way we're going to shoot this in a day. Because this was longer than the Warrior script I had. This was longer than most scripts I'd done. And so we did this 2 ways. We shot it. We basically shot the live segments in the hotel, which actually took about 2.5 hours. And we were pretty thrashed by then. And we just agreed that we were going to do the voiceovers at home. Excuse me. Do the voiceovers at home and then put them together. And so you can definitely hear a marked difference between the live segments and the voiceovers. But you can actually hear that from most critics. Most people don't record the voiceovers and the live segments the same way. Actually, Nostalgia Critic does. That's why you can rarely hear much of a difference between when he cuts away to movies and when he cuts back to himself. That's pretty much the same way. He records everything live. But I'm neglecting one of the bigger moments of this one was the professional hotel ass wiper, which I have no words. I kind of wish we'd gotten Ed in a uniform. It kind of seems really creepy to have a guy who's just kind of in a t-shirt and jeans hanging out in your bathroom waiting to wipe your ass. But Ed has the acting chops to pull it off. He's like, I'm a professional at this. Come on in. Yeah, I don't know how we would have gotten a hotel, like a bellhop outfit, but I kind of think that's the vision we originally had for this one, and it's just kind of Ed hanging out in the bathroom. But, we actually did a few lines. I did a few improv lines to kind of divert from the script. Most of them were just kind of me looking shell-shocked, but I think my favorite one was, it was okay, but where it really got awkward is I had no idea how much to tip that guy. And so that was my... How much do you tip a professional ass wiper? I just don't know. This is a fairly long review, and I don't have a whole lot to say about this video that wasn't already said in the video. Watching this one was an ordeal. Look, flying meatballs. But, what to say about this movie? You know what? Honestly, I don't believe this is a movie. In the sense that I don't believe this actually... Does it really exist? Like, I just find it so hard to believe that people were responsible for animating and acting in and assembling this movie and then releasing it as a finished product. Like, I just don't believe that actually happened. And I know it seems like I'm in denial, but I have never actually seen a DVD case. Like, if this was anything other than some kind of weird bootleg, I would be stunned. If you can show me an actual tape or a DVD that's official, that's not like a bootleg, because I got a download. Somebody sent me a downloaded copy of this. That's how I saw it. But to think that this is an actual finished product it blows my mind, because Ed Glazer explained this to me, and I hope you forgive me if I don't know the full story, because it's actually very hard to do any research on this one. I did a little bit of research, but Bennett was the one who wrote the script. But from what I can understand, this is some kind of weird Korean-Australian co-production, because apparently Japanimation is big everywhere, right? But Korea was really trying to break into this, and so their way of breaking into it was basically copying everything successful that Japan was doing at the time. And at the time, Japan was doing monster movies, and it was doing giant robots hitting each other, like Ultraman and stuff like that. And so, really what I think they did was, they probably wrote some kind of very vague script out, just of things they generally wanted to get, like, robots fighting, and some kind of Senate meeting, and we'll fill in the script later, and what I imagine happened was either they just kind of spliced together a bunch of failed pilots for robot shows, or they farmed out scenes to a ton of different animators and animation houses and just kind of kludged it together. It's just so weird, because all of this animation, none of it matches. There will be plot points that are brought up and dropped, never to be seen again. Characters will enter the script at the beginning and then are never ever spoken of or referred to or seen again. Characters who I think are supposed to be the same characters they change radically in appearance and uniforms, and the robots change. So there's absolutely in no way any continuity. And the only, that's why I say, it can't be a movie, because there's no way any director had any kind of control over it. That's why I seem to think it's just a bunch of different divergent plots and shows that are just, some guy just took pieces of it and kind of duct taped it together, and then when it was all together, kind of wrote a script to fit these scenes that he taped. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? I just can't believe that there was one coherent script for this, and then the director or the writer sent this out and said, make a movie based on this one story, animate this, men. It just, I don't see it. It cannot have been done that way. I have not seen that much anime in my life. I'm just not a big fan, so I don't know how much it means when I say this is by far the worst animated product of any kind that I've ever seen. Truly hideous and painful. It kind of passes the point where it's really not funny. It's just really, really boring and sad, and it just kind of makes you feel sorry that you're watching this. And it's because that I haven't watched a lot of anime that I hope you'll excuse me if I got references wrong, because this is actually kind of a cool challenge, I think. I think the only reason you would ever want to watch this show is if you fancy yourself a real anime guru. You might actually, I love the America map back there. If you consider yourself kind of a guru, it might actually be worth watching this just to see if you can identify what is being ripped off in every single solitary scene. I doubt there's a frame of this movie that's original in any way. And Tron was really one of the only ones I picked up. I picked up on the Gundam and the Robotech. And I actually saw a show called Macron 1 when I was a kid. I saw the entire run of Macron 1 when I was a kid. I had an ear infection. And they would only aired at 4 in the morning. It was really weird. But I recognize a lot of Macron 1 in this as well. But everything in this show is ripped off. And it would be worth it to actually just see, just go down the time code and to see if you can rip off every single thing that was done in this movie. This really reminds me of the Mystery Science Theater movie Monster A Go-Go, in the sense that there are long stretches of this movie where absolutely nothing happens. And I'm not saying nothing happens people are talking and nothing's happening. No, I mean, you will just watch as people mill around and stare at screens. Just sit there. Like at the beginning of the movie, where I say there's a full minute, you just watch bridge staff just kind of lounging and leaning against rails. You see that so much where just nothing is occurring. The tank sequence Man, when you sit through the movie for that long and you witness that a 2.5 minute tank sequence where you just watch the same animation loop over and over and over again. My God, you have to get up. You feel forced to leave the room. I think the worst effect I saw that whole show was the Godzilla thing, where it's basically like the only way it could have been worse, I think, is if they had literally just tacked on like an index card on the screen that said Godzilla here, or Godzilla to be added later. I just can't believe they actually expected monster effect to be a static shot, essentially, like just a not animated drawing of Godzilla that just kind of flickers in and out of existence. And they're like, that's a monster, and it doesn't even show it destroying buildings. It just kind of shows buildings flash orange and then vanish. It's worse than in the original Star Trek, when you'd see people vanish. At least there'd be some kind of music cue, and there'd be a fade, and there'd be some kind of effect. It was But yeah, Bennett did a really good job writing this one, just picking up on all the references, because I never would have gotten half these references. I might have picked up like Macross or something like that. Definitely Tron, but beyond that, I had nothing. Voltron, yeah. A lot of this screamed Voltron to me, especially the design of the uniforms and the helmets and stuff like that, especially the kids. But I actually thought I would talk a lot about the trip and the donation drive, because this is as good an opportunity as any to talk about it, because this is a pretty long video. We were only there for a couple of days, probably 3 nights, 2 days about, for the donation drive, and that really felt good, because it was a chance to use my powers for good, and I really felt like I needed to pay back some karma for all the donations that were given to me. So I really hope that I've done some good, at least contributing to the donation drive. And I should talk about the injury that I sustained during the donation drive. We did spooning with Spoony the second day I was there, just before the donation drive, and that was a lot of fun. I talked about that in the commentary for that, but a lot of people mentioned, like, when somebody asked about spooning with Spoony during the donation drive, and I was like, no, never, never, never. I was just trying to make the other guys laugh, because we had just done that almost, literally 2 hours ago. When we'd done that. So I was like, you will never see that again. Never! And then I was thinking, like, 2 days later you would see it, and you'd be like, that's Spoony, he's so funny. As for the injury, we were just talking to somebody who had donated a great deal of money. I mean, a ton of money. And so I had just gotten off the phone with that guy. And I was taking a bit of a break, because I was a little tired, and I was just trying to get some caffeine in me. And I had just stepped out to get some air, and it's, sometimes you just step wrong. And I stepped outside. Maybe I wasn't looking where I was going. Maybe the ground was a little uneven. But, I just stepped wrong. My right foot just kind of rolled inward on my ankle. And I heard this sound, like this snapping, popping sound, like somebody stepped on bubble wrap. And it wasn't my ankle that was hurt. It was the outside half of my foot that is still really, really sore. And I had thought I'd broken something at first, because that sound was just ungodly horrible. And it hurt like a son of a bitch. I still don't know if anything's broken. I doubt it. Just because I was able to flex my foot and my ankle, and I don't think I would have been able to do that if it was broken, but it's definitely badly sprained at least. And so I was gimping around like crazy, and it did not make running through the O'Hare Airport any more fun. And of course, my terminal had to be at the extreme far end of the gate. It was like K18, so I had to walk about 1.5 miles. It was pretty crazy. It was a long, long way. I know that's not a very satisfying explanation. I wish I had a better explanation for it myself, but I stepped wrong, and the foot just kind of rolled under. That was it. It's really hard to explain. It's actually pretty ugly right now. It feels a lot better than it was, but it's all bruised up now. It's one of those really ugly kind of greenish purple bruises. Man, it's ugly looking, but it is clearing up. I think it should be better about 5-6 days from now. I'm actually moving a lot faster than I was. But when we got to the hotel, we really just hung out for that night because we got there pretty late at night. We had dinner at Dave & Buster's, like I said, and we went back. It was there we watched a bunch of each other's videos, just trying to kind of catch up on what we'd been doing, because this is going to sound really bad, but I actually do not watch that many videos online. I'm typically working most of the time, and there's a few reasons I don't watch other people's videos. Sometimes to avoid being accused of ripping anyone off, I tend to kind of isolate myself, especially when I'm writing something, and especially if I know somebody else has already done it. But it really is just because I'm busy. There'll come a time like once every 2 or 3 weeks that I'll just kind of take a day off and devote that entire day to watching other people's videos, like Nostalgia Critic. I actually didn't watch Nostalgia Critic for about 2 months previous to the trip, and so I just took a day and watched every single thing Nostalgia Critic did, and I watched everything that Bennett and Joe did, and actually I hadn't watched anything that Joe had done in a while. And it was there that Joe showed me his King Arthur review, and he was a big fan of the Total War series like I am, which kind of surprised me about Joe. I kind of figured him for a more shooter type of guy, but he's a big war gamer, which is cool. And he kind of mirrored my disappointment with Empire Total War, and he said, "You like King Arthur, dude? It's awesome, it's awesome." And so I checked it out, and it does have its flaws. I agree. His complaint against the units kind of stacking up and not being able to wind around, I've run into that myself. And it's not perfect, but I do like it better than Empire Total War. Believe it or not, he was absolutely dead on right about that one. And I actually mentioned that I very much disagreed with his review of Sacred 2, and he's like, I know, I should have mentioned that it's really only good if you have a lot of friends to play with online, and because I tend not to play with friends online that much, except with maybe Borderlands or something like that. So yeah, I would agree that Sacred 2 is only really good if you have kind of a posse to hang out with. Solo, it's pretty tedious. But I'm sorry if my performance in the donation drive was maybe a little understated. I had hurt myself quite badly, and I was in a lot of pain in the second half of that review. I was trying to ice my foot, keep the swelling down. I'd sprained it pretty bad. And beyond that, maybe you didn't see as much of some people as you would have liked. There was a lot of us in there, and it probably seemed like we were all jockeying for camera space. It was really just because the room was so small. And we were all trying to make it so you could see us and ask us questions if you'd wanted to. Because I was actually watching the comments quite a bit, and as soon as I kind of walked off, comments would flood in, and they'd be like, "Where's Spoony?" or "Get Spoony up here!" Or whenever Doug would disappear, they'd ask for Doug, and people would ask for Ed Glazer if he ever wandered off. So we were all trying to kind of stay in shot, so you knew we were there.
Wait, what the fuck did he just say?
But I had a lot of fun. I was not upset at anybody. It was my own dumb fault. I rolled my ankle, and believe it or not, even though I was hurt, I was really enjoying myself the whole time. It was great hanging out with Bennett, Angry Joe, Ed Glazer, and I'd like to thank them all for making this a really successful trip with a lot of cool crossovers, a lot of funny jokes being made. I'd like to thank Doug Walker, Rob Walker, Bargo for working so hard on the donation drive. He was working nonstop around the scenes, multitasking a half a dozen to a dozen different things, trying to get everything working smooth. He really goes unappreciated, I think. I'd like to thank Mike Michaud for basically chauffeuring us around Chicago. Really crazy commute in and out of Chicago, or out of the airport. The traffic situation and the freeways there would drive me insane. It is nothing like in Mesa. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody, but if I did, I'm sorry. Anyway, this is wrapping up, so I'll just say thank you once again to everybody. I always have fun when I'm working with you guys. I love doing the crossovers. I love making the perverted videos. So thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you all for supporting the site, and thank you all for supporting the charity.